Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Read and Reread. I am Angelia, and today, believe it or not, it is time for the February TBR. It's already here. Well, it's almost here. It's coming in a few days, but I feel like I'm ready. I have a plan, and today I want to talk about some books that I am planning to read in February. These are mostly the ones that are for events, reading challenges, things like that I know I want to participate in. But I'm trying and hoping to leave some space for other books along the way as well. But we can talk about those kind of at the end. So let me just talk to you about these books. Let me know if you're planning to read any of these or some different ones that you think you're going to read in February. And let's just have a little conversation about our upcoming reading. February is African American History Month, at least it is here in the US, and I like to focus on that and read some books that have to do with the Black experience, Black history, Black culture in the United States. As with all themes, I don't hoard them up and only read them in February, but I like to highlight some of those books and authors that I have been thinking about and kind of organize it so that I am reading them in February. So let's take a look at what I have picked out for Black History Month this year. The first one is, you saw it in my recent haul, Octavia Butler, Wild Seed. And you know I love Octavia Butler. This is my next book that I have bought by her, and it is the first book in a fantasy series called The Patternists. And it is about two opposing kind of entities, or not deities, I guess they're entities. One is, it seems like one is male, one is female. They both have all these powers. One uses the powers to and enhances his strength and dominance by kind of absorbing or eating, killing. I don't know. I think he kills and collects the energy. And the other one is a healer and uses her powers to create more. Oh God, this sounds so weird. Okay, I don't even know. I need to read it and then we'll see, okay? Anytime you try to describe an Octavia Butler book, it's going to sound really strange, but then you read it and it's really wonderful. So that's what I'm expecting from Wild Seed. The next one also you saw in a recent haul video, and that is My Monticello by Jocelyn, Nicole, Johnson. And this was a book that I heard about when it came out 2 or 3 years ago. Let's check the date. Yes, 2021, and it was kind of on my list, but I never did read it, and then I saw it recently at the thrift store and rescued it and brought it home. And these are short stories. I don't think that they are collected short stories. I'm not sure, but I think they are just different short stories. It sounds like some of them have contemporary settings, some of them are speculative. I kind of get a kick out of some of the ways they describe books in blurbs, but because this sounds a little over the top. It is a precisely imagined debut that will pull you in and radically alter any notions you have about what it means to belong. And so I don't know. We'll see if I get radically altered. But there's a bunch of different stories. I've heard it's really good. I don't know much about it, but I'm looking forward to diving in. And then also a book that has been on my TBR for years. I cannot explain why I haven't yet tried this book, and that is The Good Lord Bird by James McBride. This was on my TBR before I went on and read Deacon King Kong and The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store, both of which I really loved. And for some reason, I've never read The Good Lord Bird. I did also look up his memoir, what is that one called? The Color of Water. The library didn't have it. They had it, but it had been withdrawn for damage. So I had thought about reading that for my nonfiction book for February, but they didn't have it. And then I remembered I hadn't read The Good Lord Bird. So this book, okay, here's the description. Henry Shackelford is a slave boy in Kansas Territory in 1856, when the region is a battleground between anti and pro-slavery forces. When the legendary abolitionist John Brown arrives in the area, an argument between Brown and Henry's master quickly turns violent. Henry is forced to leave town with Brown, who believes he's a girl. And the very beginning, I opened the book, and just the very first line, well, there's a little prologue, but the first line of the narrative, which this story is told by Henry, who is called Onion by John Brown. And the opening line is, I was born a colored man, and don't you forget it, but I lived as a colored woman for 17 years. Okay, so apparently this book is funny, and that I do kind of expect that there will be humor coming from James McBride. I think what made me hesitate back in the day is sometimes I have an issue when there's a book that takes a real life historical figure and then really spins a yarn with that person. Like it's not supposed to be the fictionalized realistic telling necessarily, but it's kind of going out on a limb, and that can not work. But I'm pretty sure it does work based on the strength of the reviews, and it won the National Book Award, I think. It does. They must have bought this one new because the award isn't on here, but I'll double check. So I don't know. If you have read it, you can let me know how you felt about it. But I feel pretty positive going in. I can't really explain why I haven't read it yet. The final fiction author that I've selected for African American Fiction Month, African American History Month, is Christopher Paul Cutis. Now, I'm going to be doing a buddy read with Michael Clark, and we're reading Bud Not Buddy, so maybe it's a Bud read. But time permitting, we might also read The Watsons Go to Birmingham, 1963. They're both by Christopher Paul Cutis, who writes middle grade and kind of young adult, middle school. That's kind of the range, middle grade to middle school books. A lot of them are historical fiction. These two are big prize winners. Bud Not Buddy won the Newbery Medal, which is the medal given out by the American Library Association for excellence in children's writing. It also won the Coretta Scott King Award, which is given to a Black author. And he also was a Newbery Honor Book winner for Watson Goes to Birmingham, and again won the Coretta Scott King Award. Now we talked about reading these books, and especially focusing on this book, and then because we are so in the groove, we are so on the topic, Christopher Paul Cutis was honored just last week by winning a Lifetime Achievement Award, the Virginia Hamilton Award, which is the division of the Coretta Scott King Award for his body of work. So that was pretty exciting news. And these also have been challenged. This one especially, and if I am able to fit it in this month, I'm definitely gonna reread it like sometime this year. But if I fit it in this month, I'll talk more about the ban and challenge issue with that. This one has also been challenged, not quite as heavily, but really these days, if you pick up any book that has to do with history and social issues dealing with non-white people, somebody has challenged the book. Somebody just doesn't want your kids to read about it or talk about it. So when we get to the reading, we can talk about that a little bit. But let me just read you the description of this book. This book is just really good. And this is a reread for me. It is 1936 in Flint, Michigan. Times may be hard, and 10-year-old Bud may be a motherless boy on the run, but he's got a few things going for him. Number one, he has his own suitcase full of special things. Number two, he's the author of Bud Caldwell's Rules and Things for Having a Funner Life and Making a Better Liar Out of Yourself. And number three, his mama never told him who his father was, but she left a clue. Flyers advertising Herman E. Calloway and his famous band, the Dusky Devastators of the Depression. Bud's got an idea that those flyers will lead him to his father. Once he decides to hit the road and find this mystery man, nothing can stop him. Not hunger, not fear, not vampires, not even Herman E. Calloway himself. So you can tell from the tone of the description that you're going to have a really engaging protagonist. You're going to have humor, but the setting is also a time of hardship and danger. So it's going to be an adventure. and I can't wait to reread this. I have forgotten most of the specific details, so I'm looking forward to enjoying it all over again. And if I have time to get to this one, I'll introduce it more when I do or whenever it comes up. But we kind of have this on tap as a time permitting. I did select a nonfiction book for African American History Month as well. And there's a little story. So my original selection was Master, Slave, Husband, Wife by an author whose name I can't remember right now, but I'll put it on the screen. And I had it checked out, but I jumped the gun and I got it too early, and then I wasn't able to renew it to read this month. Somebody requested it, so I have re-requested it, and I will read it eventually. So I did find a substitute, though, that I'm really excited about. Oh no, here I am, I'm being all excited again. You know what, let's just take a minute to calm down. I feel like I'm talking a mile a minute because I'm just so jazzed up about these books. Let's see. Okay. Serenity Achieved. The next book is a new release. So once I found out that I wasn't going to be able to get the other book in time, I was just browsing through new acquisitions at the library. I was looking up a few specific books and just seeing if they had something new that hadn't crossed my path. And I found what I hope is a treasure, and it is Black AF History, The Unwhitewashed Story of America by Michael Harriot. This book was on Kirkus's best of list for 2023. It did get the star, and it has really high reviews. At first, when I looked at it and kind of saw the tone of the book, I wanted to make sure that it was serious. I mean, it's not like I want a serious, depressing history book, but I didn't want something to be too flippant. I mean, the title, kind of like, wait, what is the approach here? So, but no, it's well researched. It looks like it's well, I'm a librarian. I got to see if somebody did their research and their proper citations. But Michael Harriot has gone back through history in kind of the format of a history book, and he hasn't rewritten it. He's just explained it from another perspective. This, and the way this book is described, it reminds me a lot of when I read On Juneteenth by Annette Gordon Reed. I'll double check. Because she talked in that book about times, and she was mainly focusing on Texas history, and she talked about the mythology that people cling to and love, that they're taught as children, and how people get really uncomfortable when they find out that it's not accurate or it's not complete. And I feel like this is what we're going with in this book as well, because the beginning of the description says, America's backstory is a whitewashed mythology implanted in our collective memory. It's a sugar-coated legend based on an almost true story. It could even be said that the devaluation and erasure of the Black experience is as American as apple pie. Now, that sounds pretty damning, but he approaches this topic with a lot of humor. And we have this format in the book where he has a topic, he has a chapter, and then at the end of the chapter, there's what you'd find at the end of a textbook in school, where you have questions and activities to do. Here's one of the quiz questions. Black history begins. A, when humanity begins. B, when Juan Garrido arrived in Florida. C, when the first enslaved Africans arrived in 1619. Or D, every year on February 1st. So I haven't read any of this yet except to flip through it, but I can see that there's a lot of content and humor as well. I think there's some personal stories interspersed in here. So I'm going to start this out and try to read like a chapter every day and see if I learn something. I will share it with you as the journey unfolds. But I was excited to find this because it was not a book I was familiar with, but then the more I read about it, it sounds really worthwhile, and I think I'm going to enjoy it. All right, so what other events am I participating in? Well, I've been doing the uh, 24 and 24 banned books challenge, and the Christopher Paul Curtis qualifies for that. If I don't read the second book, I will substitute a challenged children's, another book, a picture book, into that category, because I am focusing personally on the young people's Chand and Balance books for that event. And then another one I'm doing is the Read Goods Challenge that Ben Reads Good. I always get this mess. Ben Read Good. The February topic is pandemic fiction, nonfiction, and apocalyptic. It's called Feverary. So it could be real pandemics like COVID, AIDS, the influenza of 1918. I don't know what else. The plague. It could be a nonfiction book about those topics. It could be speculative fiction about things that have not happened but could happen, like Station 11. And so I'm going to read the Blue Book of Nebo by Manon Steffen Ross, a Welsh author. And this was a book that I purchased recently. And this is this isn't really a disease. This is after nuclear disasters bring 21st century civilization to a close. Rowena and her young son Dylan are among the rare survivors. So she lives in a cottage in Wales, and it's a survival story about these two people living basically in a pre-technological format because everything's come to an end. So that sounds so firmly placed in my alley. Then I also have a couple of my personal reading projects. I'm rereading the quartet that has to do with Lucy Barton. So I just talked Friday about My Name is Lucy Barton, the first book in that quad or quartet. Anything is Possible is the second book. So this one is linked stories. And I kind of forgotten about that a little bit. I mean, I knew it, but I hadn't thought about it. And I'm getting the sense from the crowd that a lot of people, maybe this is their favorite one. And maybe I will feel like that too. I'm going into this saying that my favorite one is O. William, but I might change my mind. I don't remember this very well, except I do remember a story about a really difficult visit. Lucy Barton does appear in the book, but it really takes place in the town that she is from, and has to do with other people and their connections in this town. Some of them were mentioned by her mother in the first book when they are talking about the town and its inhabitants. She does appear in a story where she goes to visit, and it's very tense, and I do remember that. But I'm really looking forward to reading this again and refreshing my memory of all these people. And the other thing that I'm rereading my way back through is the Jackson Brodie series. So I'm going to be reading One Good Turn by Kate Atkinson, which is the second book. I read Case Histories, the first book, in January, and I'm going to read the second book. Again, I am blessed with the fact that a new book is coming out, and I think it is the sixth one. And so, you know what I need to do, because when I announced I was going to read the Lucy Barton books, that next book had not been announced. And when I said I was going to reread these, the next book hasn't been announced. So that makes me think maybe I'm manifesting these books, and maybe I need to reread some Donna Tartt and some Sarah Waters, and who else is lagging behind on producing their next book? Because maybe I need to get onto the project, because I don't know, maybe I'm secretly magic and I'm maybe, right. You know, it's got to be all about me, right? It has to be about me. So anyway, Jackson Brodie, the second book, I don't remember what this book is about. This one, a couple of them, when I look at it, I go, oh yeah, that was the one. Where this one, whoop, I don't know. I'm not even going to try to figure it out in advance. I'm just going to open it and start reading it. Okay. So that is what I feel kind of concrete about reading, or at least planning to read. That was an immediate equivocation, wasn't it? Oh well. I hope that I have room to read some other things. I have a whole cart full of things that I really want to get to, and you've seen them in my last couple haul videos. I've only read a couple of those so far. I also have, there's the random act of library that I want to commit now and then the big wild card is the BookTube prize, which will be announced next Thursday. If I am pulled in the first round, I will have 6 books assigned that I need to read in February or March. And I may or may not have read any of them before. So yeah, that's what I have. Let me know what you think about my TBR and what are you planning to read in February. Oh, I forgot one. Wait, there's one more. I'm doing the Bard Room, the ongoing reading of Shakespeare, and the book that was pulled for February is The Merry Wives of Windsor. So add that to my list. That one is another one that I am definitely going to fit into my month. Okay, now I'm done, for real. So what are you planning? Any of these sound good to you? I'll be back on Tuesday with a tag video that I am working on. And until then, have a great rest of your weekend and the beginning of your new week, and we'll check in again soon. Bye-bye.